talked about pickleball courts and other amenities that could potentially be in some new things. And I know that the city's working to incorporate some of those, but yeah.
As we were leaving the group, Mary said something interesting that I hadn't thought about that I wanted to throw out to everybody else, is the possibility of a fish pond, kind of like they have in Davis County in a few places. I thought that was an interesting idea, to both open space and recreational and multi-use. It's kind of a neat thought.
That's interesting. Yeah, we definitely also had a similar conversation about open space and striking a good balance between, maintained open space as in parks and playgrounds and the likes, as well as, a preserved wetland area and trails and really preserving the natural landscape.
Yeah, we talked about trails too and connecting to some of the more regional and neighboring trails.
Yeah.
Maddie, you brought up businesses, small businesses and restaurants, things like that. We did talk about some development, and that people felt that, it makes sense as the city grows, and by grows, I mean grows up, goes on with life, like some commercial development would be necessary or appropriate. But specifically gearing towards, more local shops, mom and pop type shops, creating, increasing the tax base, creating, a sense of community in those areas, preserving small business laws to encourage small business owners and things like that.
Great.
That was something we talked about in the third group as well. So it sounds like that's something to continue to explore.
So we've got these: preserve open space, balance open space, trail connections, small commercial development focused on small businesses. Were there any other big ideas that stood out to anybody?
Well, I think we'd be remiss if we didn't mention, concerns about housing being included. Our group had a sense that, a lot of the community moved here to be a little bit more larger lots, or maybe a little more rural, if you were, and they're willing to sacrifice some of the so-called amenities or being closer to certain things to accommodate that feeling remaining. And then, I think Cindy had a really interesting point, is like, maybe there's ways that we can encourage developments to, while maybe a little larger lot size not feel so cookie cutter, and maybe that development patterns in that sense can increase the open space feeling, rather than, just the same house, the same, I guess just same lot layout. We could potentially there could be ways to, accommodate similar size housing and to it, but also feel a little bit more open, through site design and things of that nature, or developer included parks and trails and stuff like that. So I think, some interesting thoughts there as well.
Definitely. Thank you.
Yeah, when we talked about growth in our group, it was, cautioned that infrastructure and, maybe not amenities such as, grocery stores or whatever, but things like parks and that type of thing, utility infrastructure, road infrastructure, should be in place before the growth happens to, it's easier to get those things before than it is to go back in and add it afterwards. So, just cautioning and along that same vein, kind of growing responsibly, realizing that a lot of people want their kids and their grandkids to grow up in Hooper, but that it doesn't have to happen overnight. So just growing responsibly.
That's a good point.
I like that term, grow responsibly. It's not one that it sounds fairly unique to me in working with communities. And it sounds like it kind of captures a lot of the comment that we've heard.
We did talk a lot about core competencies and different characteristics that, you know, should be maintained or enhanced as we develop a plan moving forward. And a lot of that was also heard in the words and phrases discussion. You know, maintaining a small town feel, maintaining and enhancing the community aspect of Pupper, things like that.
Yeah.
Stop there before.
Any other community members who would like to share their thoughts, whether you shared that during the breakout session or something new that's just come up as you've been listening?
Just something generally to do with that last comment about the infrastructure and in line with the growth, where at least where I'm at, and I'm in the, I guess, far northwest corner of Hooper, where it's really rural, and it was in years past has always been pretty pedestrian heavy and no traffic. And now with all these subdivisions popping up around us, like we get all the added traffic on these collector streets without any sidewalks or anything else, and it just doesn't feel safe anymore for kids to be walking around with all the people that are moving out here from the city and generally driving 10-20 miles an hour over the speed limit too on these little roads.
Okay,
that's something that I have a big concern about. Anybody else?
I know, I'm looking, and I used to be a teacher, and you know what I would normally do is stare at people until they talk. But with all your cameras off, I can't. No, I'm just kidding. Anyone else like to add anything before we start to wrap it up?
I just want to maybe concur with Cindy about developments, because you know, we talk about open spaces and everybody has different definitions of what open space means to them. But it seems kind of silly to have, you know, 10, 20 acres of farmland, but then you can cram in 50 houses in, you know, 15 acres next to that farmland. It kind of just loses its feel and its appeal.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Yeah, it just feels like it's going to end up being just a sea of houses out here without any general plan as far as parks and public use for different areas. Like I spent a lot of my childhood in Ogden, and there's a lot of houses in Ogden, but I could walk, you know, every few blocks down whichever way, and there was at least a little park somewhere where we could hang out and play, and it doesn't seem like there's any of that going on out here right now.
So this was talked about a lot in the group I was in, just kind of the tension between wanting to preserve farmland and some of the farmers feeling like they're aging out of farming, and they're kind of looking at, okay, what's my next step with this? Are there ideas in that regard? I mean, that's not necessarily an easy issue to tackle. I don't think that there are any perfect answers to that, but any thoughts on that?
I have a question as to essentially what the frontage requirements are for lots, because I think, I mean, you could have a 1.5 acre lot, but if your frontage on that's only 20 feet and you're spacing them all every 20 feet, it's not going to feel like an open country. And I feel like even if the lots are 1/2 acre, if you're doing a wider frontage on that and having the houses farther apart, that's going to give you more of that feeling without necessarily having to go to 1 acre or more lots. And then potentially also having a requirement of a certain size of park per new development of homes would be an interesting question to propose. And potentially having those connect to each other. So I grew up on the Jordan River Parkway down more in Salt Lake. And so I grew up with trails that connected, and I could go a lot of places on those walking. I think I could walk 50 miles in either direction if I wanted to. So it's kind of a difference where out here he's talking about not being able to walk on the road, having a sectioned off plan to potentially connect future developments and not sectioning everything off, essentially.
Yeah.
I want to address the original question about farming is we're not going to prevent, I mean, there's no way for us to prevent farmers from selling out, right? And generational farming is probably not going to happen, right? As kids go get other jobs that are more lucrative. So farming is going to go away. And I like the comment where we had, you know, just smart development, making sure that we're just not sprawling houses out, but that we actually have a plan to like, I think it was Dylan was saying, right? Parks per number of residents, kind of spreading out houses so that you're not so packed in there, you know, next to each other, boom, boom, boom. All of those things help just the appearance of open spaces, which I feel like everyone is in concurrence here, that's what they really, you know, they moved out here because it was open spaces and we want to kind of maintain that feeling. And so it's, you know, eventually we're going to get to a point that no one really likes, which is all of the farmers have sold and someone's come in and built the houses. And whether you like it or not, that's going to happen over the next 2 decades. And so doing a plan that helps, you know, keep that open feeling, brings in the right commercial businesses to support those that are here, but not make it so big that you have 3 Walmarts or, you know, just really large footprint resident or commercial businesses, right? That take away from that kind of country feeling. To me, those are wise decisions that we can kind of put into place today that will help us in 20 years when that happens. And the trails, those things just kind of, you know, you can now walk around your city, right? I look at my kids, they can't go out to the main road because there's no sidewalks, right? So things like that, they can't go anywhere because it's not safe for them to be riding on the road in roads that are not necessarily fast roads, but, you know, there's no way to keep them off of the road safe. And, you know, even walking to school, the sidewalk cuts halfway there. So there, you know, things like that help that kind of pedestrian feel, the open feeling, kind of bringing the community together.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, that was one of the subdivisions recently up the street for me was one of the Woodside ones, Skyview Estates, I believe. That's something that just really made me chuckle was that they were kind of marketing that idea of the country life and out here in Hooper, and they had horse property real big on their sign, but they're half-acre lots with these big, huge houses on them. So by the time it's all done, there's maybe like not even a quarter of an acre left of actual land, and they're calling that a horse property. And that was kind of ludicrous to me.
So marketing what you see as a real strong point of Hooper, but just in an...
It's just that these developers were trying to market that as a country area, but when it's completely not, I just thought it was funny.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, everybody, for sharing. As we start to wrap this up, I'm going to transition back to Megan, who has been taking copious notes on what everyone has been saying.
Okay, so this next exercise, and you can laugh at me, you can put all no's on these statements. This is just what I've come up with off the top of my head while multitasking during this meeting, right? These are not the statements that are currently in the Hooper general plan, and I just want to reiterate that we're not going to toss that plan out if we are finding that Everything in there is exactly, it's perfect. It represents Hooper. We'll just keep those. But this is just from this meeting, right? These are statements that may or may not reflect how you feel. So we want to do an exercise and just have you go back to, if you're able to use the annotate function, go back up there to view options and annotate, just like you did before, and use the stamp function. This will give you a little X or a little star, and just put a star or an X on these sticky notes, depending on whether or not they resonate with you. Awesome, got it. We got it working. That's good news. And this might not cover everything, and we can talk about that. We can talk about what I missed. You can tell me that I didn't listen to you, and I'll go back and watch the recording of the meeting so I make sure that we capture it.
And if you're not able to use the stamp function, you can, type in the box. Thank you, Corey.
I feel the same way. I feel like these notes that you've taken, I'm putting a little star by all of them.
Yeah.
Excellent.
That's good. They might be run-on sentences, but I tried to fit it all in there. This is kind of how you build a general plan, right? You get these vision statements, and then as we get down into the weeds, we'll continue to ask ourselves like, whoa, we've completely lost that vision. What are we doing? And we'll come back out to you all. You'll get to tell us if we lost the vision too. And again, I mean, that'll kind of be what our next round of outreach looks like, right? We'll bring you the draft vision and we'll say, hey, did we get it? And we'll have a conversation about what's right and what's wrong. I'm seeing check marks and stars, so I'm feeling good. Give it just a couple more seconds, and then we'll save this image, and Maddie can tell us all about the next steps within our process. Okay, and I'm seeing your chats of starring them. I won't go through and do it just because it could be tedious, but that's great.
I checked for Corey and Amanda.
Oh, awesome. Cool. Okay, I think that we are good to go at this point. Let me save this. I'd hate to lose that. Okay.
Okay, thank you. If you want to keep typing in your stars, go for it. This slide is showing future opportunities for community involvement. So just a reminder that the survey is still open until December 10th. So if you or someone you know has not taken the survey yet, please remind them to do so. The survey can be found at the project website, which is listed here, planhooper.weebly.com. On that website, you can also find a place to sign up for focus groups and living room chat hosts. So the focus groups, if you want to flip to the next slide, are going to have 4 different topics of focus. So one is land use and housing. The next is transportation. The third is open space and recreation. And the fourth is economic development. So if you're interested in a particular topic or maybe more than one topic, please do sign up for one of those focus groups. Again, there's a sheet on the website where you can fill that out. And you can keep signing up until December 10th, and then we will talk about how we're going to be meeting and how the focus groups will work. But generally, it's going more in depth into problem solving and idea generation. So taking these big ideas and vision statements that we heard today and really trying to narrow in on where we want to go. And then the other opportunity is living room chats. So this is just more of an informal conversation led by community members, and anybody can sign up to be a host. You're welcome to invite anyone you would like to the conversation. if you do sign up, I will send you instructions and some questions to ask if you want. You don't need to use them. This is really just a space to talk out different ideas. And then the last thing I'm going to show you is this is what the website looks like if you haven't seen it yet. Again, that's planhooper.weebly.com. And this website will continue to be updated regularly with all the information about the planning process and future opportunities for engagement. And if you have any questions, there's also an email that's linked on that website, which is hoopergeneralplan@gmail.com. And I am monitoring that and answering your questions. Thank you so much for joining us. If you have anything else you'd like to add, feel free to stick around.
Thank you so much. Appreciate your work.
Thanks, everyone.
Yeah,
Thank
good job,
you.
guys.
I will say the living room chats are a great way to tell your neighbors that we're working on this. And so if you know that they have ideas for the future of Hooper, but they're not here tonight, that's a great way to get them engaged. Thanks for spending your evening with us. Happy dinner time.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.